Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast, where we unpack sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. This is our interview show, and today's guest is Cody Davis. Be sure to check out our other podcasts. The Devotional Podcast launches each week on Tuesdays, and it's the show that takes sports stories and parallels them to life and faith. We also have a 1-minute daily podcast. Just search for the Unpacking It Minute. You can also check out our website, unpackingit.com. Find out more about our email devotional, fantasy football fellowship, and other resources for sports fans. After you listen to today's show, we hope you will share it, leave comments, and leave a review. I want to thank our sponsor, Upward Sports. Is your church looking to reach the community? As a pastor, church director, sports leader, is your desire to reach new families? Well, you can use sports as your bridge into the community. As the world's largest Christian youth sports organization, Upward Sports desires to come alongside of your church to advance your mission and promote Jesus by using sports as your ministry tool. Check out upward.org/unpack. Upward.org/unpack. And joining us now is Cody Davis. He just recently retired after an 11-year career in the NFL. He was signed by the Rams as an undrafted free agent out of Texas Tech in 2013. He spent 5 seasons with the Rams, 2 years with Jacksonville, and then wrapped things up with 4 seasons in New England. He was a safety and a special teams ace. More importantly, he's a husband, father of 3 boys, and a follower of Jesus. He developed a program at Boston Children's Hospital called Cody's Gamers, where patients play video games with athletes. Cody, it's so great to have you back on Unpacking It. How are you?
What's up, Bryce? How's it going?
It's going great. We're glad to catch up with you. And the big news, though, this offseason, you announced your retirement. So we've got to start there. How difficult was the process to come to that conclusion? And really, how did God work kind of in those details with that decision making?
Yeah, super hard process, super hard decision. I know the transition is difficult for everybody. It was the same with me. Bittersweet announcement. You're kind of crying while you're writing, your retirement speech, and it was a hard decision to come to. But I think it's built in over the last few years, and I felt like God was pulling me in a different direction. I think to walk away from football, still with mostly my health intact, but mainly family, marriage, kids, everything I could ask for.
Wow, that's remarkable. And you wrote in your Instagram post, which was very thought out and awesome. You spent 22 years since 7th grade playing football, and so what has the game meant to you? And as you've I imagine begun the process of reminiscing about the game, what are some of those things that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean the game has been everything to me. It's been my whole life so far. I'm one of those guys that have always taken pride in, football isn't my life. It's not my identity. But even then, it creeps in a little bit. Even as much as you try and push back against, the world being your identity, it does creep in. So just looking back on all the great memories, everything it allowed me to do, the platform it gave me to give back to the community and serve, has just been amazing. So just so thankful for everybody that has impacted my life along this journey, and ultimately, that's the reason where I ended up today.
Well, so as a kid, you dreamed of making it to the NFL. And so your dream came true. I'm curious though, with that, in what ways did being an NFL player live up to expectations of what you dreamed it to be? And in any way, did it maybe not live up to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And probably like everybody's dream, once you get there, it's not quite the way you had dreamed it, especially as a kid. As a kid, you probably think all the awesome things, which, like you said, um, those things were real. So getting to put on the helmet, the jersey, run out there in front of a huge crowd and play a game that I love, on such a platform was just a complete joy. I mean, it's difficult, very difficult. No, don't get me wrong, but just an exciting game. The platform was my biggest thing. I think I always dreamed of being an NFL player to use this platform, and it's awesome. You get to serve and bring joy to so many people, and just get unique opportunities. To give back charity wise and things like that. So I think those were the two main things that I enjoyed most about being a player. But what everybody misses is the locker room. So the locker room, the relationships that you build whenever you go through blood, sweat, and tears with somebody, it bonds you pretty tight. So it's an awesome experience to play sports.
Absolutely. And so with that said, and we'll talk, I want to talk more about kind of what you're going to do next, but specifically in the realm of football, how does that connection continue, or how would you like it to continue? Because some guys, they go into coaching or broadcasting, or you just become a fan. I've talked to some guys where they go, I don't really keep up with football anymore. Where do you think you kind of come out on that?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be in between. So the coaching stuff is, I don't think that's for me. I would love to do it, but the time commitment, I don't think I'm willing to do that, and move around and stuff like that. I think towards the end of my career, I mean, that was one of the factors. My oldest is getting 8 years old, so he's starting to kind of have his friends. We were pulling him away from Boston, and that was a whole deal. So I'd like to still stay connected to football. I might look into the Players Association or Pro Athletes Outreach, which is kind of a Christian ministry for pro athletes, or Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So something in athletics, but either serving ministry wise or also using my data science background and masters in data science. So I have a few different avenues I'm trying to kick around and figure that out.
Yeah, well, gosh, that sounds exciting, and specifically, kind of that hearing your heart to minister to other athletes. How did the last couple of years go? Especially, I'm sure it happened throughout your career, but especially toward the end of your career, as you become that veteran and that leader in the locker room from a spiritual standpoint. Yeah, how was that dynamic, and how just kind of enjoyable or fruitful was it for you to pour into other guys?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, turning into that veteran player and then having the opportunity to mentor young and up and coming players was quite amazing. I felt like my rookie year, I came into the league and a guy named Matt Giordano took me under his wing, which is funny because he actually took my job. So I got cut, put on the practice squad under him. But he took me under my wing, taught me everything there was to do. He would pray with me before games. That was just such a huge impact on my career. And then, kind of coming full circle, am I there in with the Patriots? A young guy named Brandon Schooler is kind of the up and coming special teamer, and he comes in. He's at my position. He might take my job, but I kind of show that same love and servant leadership to him, trying to take him under my wing, teach him the ways, and we both ended up making the team, so that was good. And just cool full circle moment to where you're being served, and then now you're able to serve and love others.
That's neat. So you'll be able to use those skills moving forward as you continue to invest in others, for sure. And so you mentioned a couple different things as possibilities for what's next for you. And so you mentioned data science, and so you got your master's in data science. What does that mean? And is your passion for that the same as it was when you were getting that master's?
Yeah, I've always had a passion for technology. I love technology. I'm always doing little side projects. I got my little streaming setup here. Every now and then dabble in that, but anything technology I love. But the data science stuff, there's such a interconnecting of technology and sports now.
Mm.
That data analysis is huge when it comes to trying to find those little inches of being better than a different team, which in the NFL, it's a game of inches between somebody who wins and loses. So using technology to try and find out a better way, to practice play and, ultimately win a game.
Oh, that's interesting. Absolutely. So the other thing you mentioned was the Players Association, and so you've been a rep over the years. So how does that work with involvement after you retire? and what would be even a potential to remain connected with the NFLPA?
Sure. So I've been 4.5 years now. I've been a player representative, and you're speaking for your locker room. You're advocating for them. You try and know as much as the CBA as possible, or get the players the answers whenever the questions come. Now, being a former player, I would try and transition to the staff side. So there's directors over teams, and then you're under a head director. So that's just the staff side of things. Whenever players ask you the questions, now I'm going to be the one providing the answers, making sure the teams follow the rules, keep them educated about the CBA and their benefits, and just trying to improve life for the players.
Gosh, that's an important thing. So that's to be able to continue in that role too would be neat. So you got some opportunities, some potential interests, and all that, which is great for you, and glad to hear that. And so I want to go back though, the last couple of seasons, your final 2 seasons in New England, and back in 2022, you had a season-ending knee injury, and so we as fans, we hear the injuries happen. We see guys get carted off, and man, they go through rehab. But take us into what that year was like for you, and how difficult it was to get through that, from a physical standpoint, but then also how did God show up in the midst of a challenging, situation and injury for you?
Yeah, I mean, going into it was midway through my 10th year, and if you would have asked me, my plan was to finish 10 years, tie my career up with a little bow, and walk away. That was my plan. God had different plans. So week 6, I was, just running down on kickoff, just made a plant that I've probably made a million times, and my knee just went, tore my ACL there. And yeah, the fans kind of see the injury, like, oh, that's not good. And then, of course, you see a little comeback post. The comeback is greater than the setback and all that, but you miss out on so much of kind of the pain and the struggle of sustaining that bad of an injury, and the isolation. I think the NFL is a business. If you aren't producing on the field, you're kind of off to the side. So going on to IR, you're not in the team meetings anymore. You're not around your teammates for most of the day. You're kind of around your trainer, the one guy that's assigned to you, and that becomes your life. I think that was very difficult. I think one of the most difficult parts, you know, other than the pain, which was kind of off the charts, and the rehab process, which wasn't fun at all, was seeing my kids see me that injured. So there for a while, I was fearful that that's all they would remember. Me going through this process, and crutches, surgery, back to crutches, trying to walk, doing all that stuff. So it was a tough full year until I was able to play again, and even then, it was still painful. And I think God, through that process, getting a little emotional talking about it, but
Mm,
um, kind of brings you through the valley,
mm,
but through to the other side.
Man. And
Oof.
what did he reveal to you, show you? How did you experience his presence and strength during that time?
Yeah, he was there the whole way. I think it's funny because uh, I don't think I wished it upon myself, but I was like, if God wanted me to come closer, a major injury is like how it would happen, and that's what happened. I think I came extremely closer to God, and kind of realized, you know, truly how to trust in Him through those difficult moments.
Man, that's powerful. And yeah, like all of us, we don't want to go through the pain. We don't want to go through the things that are against what our plan was. But it's in those seasons and moments that God really does draw close. We draw close to him, and he reveals himself in neat ways. And so um as you sort of came out of that, how did it change kind of your perspective once you got back on the team, back in the lineup, back to playing again, and sort of that, taking that experience and what God did through that time into that final season?
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things learning, as a student athlete, and it's been, my story throughout, but also, it hits you hard whenever that injury comes, is trying to fight the urge of like, you know, you kind of see it, you kind of plot your path as a student athlete or athlete, as, you want to get to this point and give God the glory, but this is the path that you want to take. And instead, here's God's path and how it's actually going to go. And whenever you're playing that tug of war, that's not a good place to be. So I think, going through that injury, it was really, God, what do you have for me? And just being obedient to whatever situations came up, good or bad. The process, the rehab process keeps taking steps back. All right, how am I gonna, move forward and still, bring that loving and serving to my locker room?
Mm.
So the process wasn't pretty at all. It seemed like every time I was having a step back or not on pace or whatever it may be. But during that same time, I was doing Cody's Gamers, you know, amazing stuff happening there. Um, and then just the opportunities in the locker room to serve others and love others in a unique way because I wasn't on the field anymore. So just really learning more about them, off the field and trying to stay connected.
Was there a verse from the Bible or scripture that you cling to more than others during that time that was a go-to anchor during that time? Or what was sort of your, I guess, time with the Lord like during that challenging season?
Yeah. Ooh, I mean, my go-to verse has always been Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, do it with all of your heart as if it working for the Lord and not for men. Um, I think that verse, took a different view.
Mm,
You always have football and you're striving to be the best you can on the field, and that's kind of taken away. You're trying to get back on the field. You feel a little lost, a little isolated, but still trying to give your best effort whenever things aren't going so well.
mm. That's good. And so when I guess even last year when you finally did get back healthy, and even moving forward, if guys deal with season-ending injuries that require really a year of rehab, what is the advice? What is the encouragement that they need to hear as they step into it, and then as they get through it throughout that year? What are some of those things that sort of bubble up that you go, man, those are the things I've got to continue to share with these guys?
Yeah, I think, leaning on your word, leaning on God, leaning on your family, the things. I think the biggest thing that was revealed to me is, happiness comes in the world in a lot of different ways, but true joy, is with the Lord. It's with those things that truly matter. So leaning on those things and, not beating yourself up too much. I think there's a push, especially in the kind of the politics of football and business of the NFL. Ever since I was injured, it was all right, 6 to 9 months, you'll be back. 6 to 9 months, no problem. And that that set me up for so much failure because it was not the timeline that I ultimately got back to football, and I think it was unrealistic. So, pushing as hard as you can, but you gotta lean on what truly matters, but also give yourself some grace. And it's going to be ups and downs. Try and keep that vision on God and the things that matter.
Mm. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is give ourselves grace, and so that's that's a good
Amen.
word. Good word there for sure. Well, you come back last season, your final season, year 11, and Christmas Eve, a special moment, a one-time moment for you through an 11-year career. It finally happens. Take us into Christmas Eve, New England, Denver. What happened and what was the experience like?
Oh man, that was the Christmas Eve gift of a lifetime right there. I mean, it was a crazy game even up to that point. I felt like things were going so poorly for like special teams and us. I don't know. It just felt like a bad game on our side. I don't know if it really was, but mentally it was like, oh man, this is just not going well. And then Zeke scored. We go out on kickoff and kick the ball all the way down the field. He muffs the kick left, luckily, so he's almost trying to bring it out of the end zone. And then Marte Mapu just puts a peanut punch right on the ball, just leaves a little present there at the 1 yard line. I'm running at it. I'm like, don't mess this up, don't mess this up. And then all I had to do is pick it up and fall in. So luckily I was able to pick it up and just yeah, such a joy. It was awesome.
You got a touchdown. So as a safety and special teams guy, you got your touchdown, which is cool. That's a special moment.
Yeah, I mean that's rare. I mean, I know Matthew Slater played 16 years and he has one as well, so
That's it.
I was happy to match his one. Um, but man, talk about overcoming struggle and to have something like that, that was just kind of the cherry on top of coming back and at least for on the field, and it was a fun experience.
Gosh, that's neat. Very, very cool. I'm happy for you that you got to get one right as the season was winding down too.
That's
That's
right.
special. That's neat. Well, so you finished your career in New England and you lived in Boston. And so there's also the the family side of all of this. And so we as fans, we see what happens on the field and there's so much that goes on. You guys are living personal lives and you go through what we go through. Where should we live? Where does our family want to live? And so you spent a few years in Boston. How did you ultimately make the decision to plant, I guess, where your family is going to be moving forward?
Yeah, there's so many factors that go into it, that go on behind the scenes, like you said. Nobody sees this stuff. But even going towards even the fall, even going into the season, we're thinking, all right, are the kids staying in school all year long? Are we gonna live half in Boston, half in Texas? I'm up on contract after this season. What does that look like? Are we playing? Are we retiring? So all these factors are going into it. So we had decided that we would move back to Texas and get the kids started in school because I was pretty sure I was retiring. But even then, my contract is up. The team's not doing well. There's rumors of coaching changes. So that all factors into it. So we decided to move back to Texas. I have a home here in Fort Worth, Texas, and even that goes into like, all right, kids start school when 2 days after my last game. All right,
Uh,
so we're booking car transportation, flights, all that stuff. So I literally play my last game, emotional game. I know it's probably my last one. All my family's there. Amazing. To next morning, I'm literally taking them to the airport to fly them out. I go back and have my exit meetings and then meet them in Texas that night to start school the next day. So, flurry of activity. 2 days after my last game, I'm in Fort Worth, kind of head spinning and, trying to figure out what's next.
Gosh, wow. And so how'd you land on Fort Worth? Because where exactly did you grow up in relation to Fort Worth?
So I'm from Stephenville, Texas. It's about an hour and a half southwest of Fort Worth.
Okay.
My brother lives here in Fort Worth, a little bit of ways from us. And my wife is from Fort Worth, so her dad lives down the street. And so it just felt like a good meeting spot for all of our family. Both of our families are around DFW area or Texas where we can drive. So we bought this in 2019 and really had this in mind, retirement. We wanted somewhere to be able to go if I either got cut, fired, whatever happened. Kind of a backup plan or get it ready for whenever I'm done. So now the plan is coming to fruition, I guess, and moved back, and it was a smooth transition. So we had been preparing for this for a while, and now it's happened.
There it is. Now the retirement life. So you're married and you've got three boys, and so last time on the show I mentioned that I'm one of three boys, so I know what it's like being in that kind of family. But what's life like lately for you and the Davis boys?
Yeah, we didn't miss a beat whenever we landed. I think My wife is very good at, getting all the boys set up in their sports, their schooling, after school activities, all of that. So we did not miss a beat. We came here all the I mean, had tons of stuff to do. January, moving out of Boston, getting out of our rental house there. February, all of our stuff arrives here. Now we got to figure out what to do with all that and then kind of find our groove from there. But kids wise, we got them going in school. We got the baseball, basketball, flag football, all the sports, soccer, all the sports going on. So daily life is pretty chaotic, but also very just amazing. I mean, living with these three boys and getting to play with them, the extra time I'm getting with them is amazing. So daddy takes them to school. I'm playing with the kids way more than I normally am, and it's just awesome.
I'm happy to hear that. That's neat. Well, enjoy this. Yeah, this season of life for sure. Well, all right. Now we've had you on the show a couple times, and of course, you were a part of the Patriot way, and you have to be careful what you say about the team. And so, not that you have to spill all the beans now, but now you're retired. Bill Belichick is no longer the head coach. We got to take us into sort of what it really was like being a New England Patriot player. And I'm curious, sort of, okay, did you notice that maybe things aren't working the same way as they used to when the Patriots were winning Super Bowls? What did you notice changed, and how surprised were you that things kind of ended the way they did for Belichick and New England?
Yeah, it's so hard to put together. I feel like everybody thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl in OTAs, and whenever you're just practicing against each other or whatever it may be, I always tell people there are so many factors that go into winning, and I think the opposite is true. There's so many factors whenever you're losing.
Hmm.
I don't know if I could pinpoint it on one thing, um, but it was a tough year. I mean, every aspect of it, from obviously the results on the field, but the tension, with the coaches, the players, when stuff starts going bad, it's bad for everybody. So it was a difficult environment. I think, like I said, going through injury and that last couple of years of the Patriots, that's some of the most difficult circumstances at least a pro athlete can be in. So I just saw it as even bigger opportunity, to help people out because people who were tied to football as their identity, they were really struggling. So
Hmm.
just tried to be a professional, tried to be that light in the locker room and take it one day at a time because you couldn't take it much more than that. I mean, it was a difficult situation.
Gosh. Well, I've been curious and surprised in many ways, just that there has been this level of criticism of Bill Belichick, and it's almost like, wait, do we forget that all he did was win Super Bowls for so many years, and then okay, maybe the last couple of years were a little bit of a letdown. What do you say to sort of the critics of the way things ended with Bill Belichick, and what's kind of the, I guess, the reality of his greatness as a coach from your vantage point?
I mean, it's hard to be the greatest of all time and still be active. I think it's your aura almost precedes like what you're able to do
Mm,
in a sense. I think it's just unrealistic expectations, but also, you have created this dynasty, and then now you're kind of held to that standard the rest of your career. So I think it was just kind of unfair. I mean, I love Coach Belichick, everything he did for me and my family, but also the way he coached. I mean, he was a very hard coach, but whenever you were doing good, he would give you much praise in front of the team as sometimes he would call you out, but he kind of had positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement there. Um, Loved him as a coach, but definitely, things were rocky at the end. But I don't think you can blame him for that.
mm.
Um, I think everybody was a little bit to blame. Kind of what I said.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a lot goes into winning and a lot goes into losing. So there was a lot of things that needed to be changed, and hopefully they're taking the right steps.
Yeah, fresh start for sure. And what do you think about him coaching somewhere else in the future? How do you think that plays out?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. With the changing landscape, I think his style, Saban's style, kind of more of the old school way of thought, if I could put it that way. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I am. I function very well under his coaching, but this NIL new culture and new players coming up. Not to take too many shots at them, but it's just a different style that they're used to. Being recruited their whole time in college, and don't want to speak too much on it, but it will be interesting to see if he can, duplicate that success at another program, and I hope he gets the opportunity because I would love to see it.
Yeah, no, I think he'll. I want to see it too. I want to see what it would look like and what franchise he ends up with. And I'm a Panthers fan, so he did not go to Atlanta, so that was good. So we're all set
There you go.
with that. Well, all right, we'll wrap up with two things. First, on the kind of the spiritual side of things, I always love hearing what guys are maybe reading or things that God's working on in you personally, sort of kind of in the moment and lately. So what sort of comes to mind as something that maybe could be an encouragement to our listeners as we wrap things up today?
Yeah, so one amazing thing with retirement has been, finding that routine on your own. I think when you're in the football world, it's always, you're building towards something else, and it just seems so chaotic. Like you almost don't have time for things. And now I'm retired, I don't have any excuses. So there was, I had seen something to always get your reps in the morning, which is, read the Bible, exercise, pray, and go ahead and take a shower. So make sure you're getting your reps every morning. I've been trying to stay on point with that. So I've just been reading through the New Testament and actually writing down kind of what I feel like Jesus is calling us to do. So whenever he, tells his disciples to do something, or he's teaching, do this or not do that, I'm trying to write that down. So it's just been a cool process to, kind of see, word for word, what he's calling to me to.
Amen. That's encouraging. I love it. All right, last question. So I saw that you were, I guess, like a guest host for the Garth Brooks Tailgate Radio channel on TuneIn Radio. So what was that? And I assume you're a big Garth Brooks fan. So what was that kind of story behind that?
Yeah, so Garth Brooks came, actually, it was my time in St. Louis with the St. Louis Rams, and he did this thing called Teammates for Kids. So it's his charity where he has engagement zones in the kids' hospitals, but he also runs football camps whenever he goes to like different cities to tour. So ever since then, I've been part of his charity. So I've worked a few of his football camps, been to a few of his concerts, which are amazing. He's just next level entertainer. You think it's his last show, like every time he performs, it's like that must have been it because he was just the way he acts during it.
Says a lot.
So he reached out and gave me the opportunity. He's connected to Tailgate Radio, and he's like, "Hey, we're looking for some people to guest DJ," and jumped on the opportunity. And it was fun to try and come up with 12 songs that I liked.
Man, so did you practice your DJ on air personality, or you just went for it? What was that process like?
Oh, Bryce, you probably know the struggle on this one. I went for it, but I was so bad. I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to cut this up. Like, I cannot just sit here and talk, train of thought, and it not come out just crazy. So I got on my Audacity, started recording, and then I probably re-recorded each statement, I don't know, 10 plus times. I was like, oh, not it, not it. And just pause, edit, cut it up, and put it together. So I practiced some of my yeah, DJ skills, but also audio editing. So it was fun.
Good for you. That's awesome. In college, I was all sports radio. I was doing sports radio, but by being on the station, we also had to do an air shift for music. And so that was out of my sweet spot. So I had to, talk about the music coming up. And so anyway, I know a little bit about just the in and out. You got to be quick and set up the song, but it's a little trickier than what people think. So
Oh man, I'm glad it wasn't live. I would have just butchered it completely. So I think my audio cut up was definitely the way to go.
that's the way to go. And radio has definitely changed in that regard. So it makes it a little bit better from that standpoint. But that's cool. That's cool. You got to do that. That's fun. Well, Cody, man, thank you so much for joining us once again. And we love having you on the show. And congratulations on 11 seasons in the NFL. I mean, it's a huge deal. And glad you got that touchdown at the end. And excited for you and your family and being able to be in Fort Worth, and excited to see what doors God opens up for you next. And sounds like you got some cool opportunities and potential paths to go down. So I trust that God will show you the way.
Yeah, I'm excited about what's next. I know I always tell people sometimes in the NFL, you feel like you're preaching to the crowd, making a little bit of impact to a lot of different people. So I'm excited to kind of step off that platform, and hopefully, God will use me to make a deep impact with a lesser community. So I'm looking forward to figuring out what he has for me next.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, great stuff, Cody. Thank you so much. He's Cody Davis, 11 years in the NFL, joining us here on the Unpacking It podcast. And thanks to everybody for listening today. We appreciate when you rate, review, share, let people know about this great podcast and with Cody and what he shared today. And so that was good, really good stuff from Cody. So we appreciate him and his heart for the Lord and his willingness to encourage us today on the show. Well, I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day, and one last plug here. Go check out the Sports Devotional. It's our new devotional book, so check out thesportsdevotional.com and grab a copy, and we appreciate the support on that as well. Have a great one. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for being with us.